Hello, everyone. My name is Kalyna White, and I'm a recent college graduate. After I graduated college, I started to think critically about what I was looking for in my career. I didn't just want a job. I wanted a mission that follows some of my passions, which include making a difference, seeing tangible changes in what I'm doing, and interacting with those that I would serve. Given my current role at Homeland Security today, I invite you to join me on my journey as I talk with people in public service pursuing different Homeland Security missions like combating human trafficking, cybersecurity, immigration, intelligence, climate security, and so much more. These short informational interviews mirror what most of my fellow graduates are doing right now, which is researching and learning about career opportunities by talking with different people in different disciplines. So today I'm excited to speak with Chris Mocella, who works as the Deputy Director of the Interdiction Technology Branch at the Laboratories and Scientific Services at CBP. Thank you so much, Mr. Mocella, for speaking with me today. I'm so excited to learn more about what you do. And it sounds like such a cool job. So what does it all entail?
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me, Kalyna. Really appreciate the opportunity here. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Deputy Director of our Interdiction Technology Branch. So I work for the large organization, Laboratories and Scientific Services. So we are the scientific, forensic, and laboratories wing of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So we can trace our lineage back to about 1850, when Congress started hiring what they called physicians to be able to analyze trade that came into the country to make sure it was classified properly for taxes and duties and admissibility. So we've evolved since then. So while we do operate all of the laboratories and forward operating laboratories around the country, we also have several technical divisions, and that's who I work for. I'm with the Interdiction Technology Branch. So we're centrally located in Washington, D.C. But you can think of us as the engineering and assessment group of laboratories and scientific services. We do a lot of engineering projects, technology assessments, and provide all of this information in support of the frontline operators for their engineering, technology, capability, mission needs across the whole landscape of everything that CBP does to secure the border.
Excellent. And so what do you do day to day in your current role?
So day to day, a lot of our activities are involved in what we call rapid technology assessments of technologies that are coming to market or new capabilities that are already on the market that may be useful for CBP's mission need. So as you know, new technologies are coming out all the time that might create new capabilities, and then there are new mission needs and new threats to the CBP mission environment that we might be able to use some of these technologies in support to meet that mission need. So for example, you can think of us a bit like consumer reports for CBP. We will look at all the different technologies out there, be able to provide a rapid assessment of these things and provide that information to the operators for them to understand their requirements, what the new capabilities are in the field, make their procurement decisions, make their operational decisions, their ConOps decisions. It is their operations, it is their money, it is their requirements. We want to provide them as much information we can to make data-driven decisions. There's so much data out there, and there's so many different devices out there now. Having someone kick the tires on them, on some of these capabilities, for them to understand what's going on out there without them having to buy them all and go through all the rigmarole themselves, we found has been really valuable and has been able to wean things down to what might actually work for them, but also let them understand what the state of the art is, that, hey, there's this new widget, there's this new capability, there's this new technology that they might be able to use that they're not aware of to be able to advance their mission in the field.
Would you be able to give an example of one of the new capabilities or technologies that you've seen recently?
Sure. So, as you know, the drug and counter narcotics problem is a very big one. Drugs are produced in this country, but they are, of course, produced externally, and illicit actors try to smuggle those into the country. And so, one of the types of technologies we look at is to not only be able to detect the presence of something suspicious, but presumptively identify what it is there on site. You know, is this really say just a over-the-counter aspirin, or is this a fentanyl pill? Which is one of the big concerns we have right now. So a lot of technologies come along, be able to identify, presumptively detect the presence of fentanyl. But you both want to be able to reliably detect the presence, but also rule out, not have these false positives and think everything is fentanyl. For two reasons: is you don't want to be overwhelmed with what you think is fentanyl when it's really not. And also the officers and the agents, the frontline operators would lose trust in the technology. They just wouldn't use it anymore, become a doorstop because it's just crying wolf. So we will assess many of these different these technologies. They come in a couple different flavors. So there are spectroscopic systems where it uses a sort of a low powered laser, and we'll shine this laser light onto the material, and the resulting light that comes off can be read into what's called a spectrum. And there are fingerprint spectra for fentanyl and for other illicit drugs. Um, there's infrared and Raman and a couple different types that we use. There are so-called colorimetrics. So this is where you would mix the suspect material with another chemical. It would undergo a reaction, and if it was present, it may change to a color, say like blue or red, and you can presumptively identify that it's there. And then there are other types, a little bit like a COVID test. There are COVID tests for drugs called immunoassay, where with the little, reader, that if you put a solution of that drug in there, if it's present, you might get 1 line or 2 lines, depending on what it is. And there are pros and cons to all of those. It's a layered enforcement strategy. We use lots of different technologies because there's lots of different things out there that work and have pros and cons. So what we'll do is we'll assess those. We'll take one of those technologies. Hey, it says this is your one-stop shop for detecting fentanyl. Okay, so we will take that and we will test it. We will have known targets and look at it and see how it works and use it in different environments and really try to stress the system to understand if it works, how well it works, what are the best ways to use it, and what are some of the limitations, because everything has a limitation. And so we can advise the officers, always use it here, but in this occurrence, when it's a full moon out and raining in April, then you can't use it. But otherwise you're fine. Those sorts of things.
Excellent. Well, that sounds really interesting. And this is all happening so quickly. So I really admire what you guys are doing. I did want to ask, it sounds like you need a path in STEM to do what you do. So can you talk a little bit about how you got into your current position?
Sure. So my background is chemistry. My undergraduate and graduate research was all in chemistry. I worked in energetic materials and then synthetic organometallics. That being said, originally we used to be a laboratory system of chemists. We hired chemists and chemists became the managers and chemists ran the whole system. That's not the case anymore. There's so many other scientific services that we need to be able to provide that we have been hiring. We hire chemists. We have been hiring people with sort of general forensic backgrounds and physical science, because people with biology backgrounds or geology, physics, engineering, and IT backgrounds, we need to be able to have all those. So for example, within LSS, we hire certified latent print examiners. We hire digital forensic analysts with an IT background in computer science. We hire palynologists who study pollen and spores and very small microbiology, engineers across the whole swath of different types of engineers: mechanical, electrical, physical, environmental, aerospace. All of those different skill sets are required for the testing that we do to be able to operate the work that we do. It is no longer just a chemist in the laboratory mixing some things together to see if it turns blue. We need the whole swath of forensic, scientific, technical, engineering disciplines to be able to operate, including mathematics, because the data-driven decisions we need to make that include statistics and programming. So we actually have quite a few people involved in informatics and statistics to be able to make the decisions we need to and show the information that we need to be able to do. And not to forget the arts of that, being able to communicate and write, be creative, come up with new ideas. Don't forget going down those art classes as well, because that's where the creativity really comes from. And the illicit actors are creative, and so we need to be creative as well in our solutions.
Definitely. I think being a recent graduate and taking some of these science classes, it's hard to see how you might actually use the information that you're learning, and how it might actually support a mission. So can you talk a little bit about how your work supports the greater mission of Homeland Security in general?
Sure, of course. So how our work creates a support, the greater mission of Homeland Security is specifically for our part of it in CBP is securing the border, preventing the flow of illicit goods and people, but also promoting and facilitating the flow of legitimate trade and travel, which is very important to our country. So again, with these technologies, to be able to find things that will advance that mission to facilitate legitimate trade and travel. Is there something newer, faster, better at what it does than we used before? For example, when you come into the country, um, uh, you would have your passport stamped. So before, they would look at your passport and maybe they had a system to check or something, and you would get a junk stamp. Now there's microchips inside those. So it's not necessarily something that I work with, but they realized, hey, these microchips will work a little bit better. If we can make them secure, we can quickly reference that information. And so instead of an officer having to make phone calls and check back with all, the State Department and this sort of stuff, they can quickly run your passport information, quickly allow you into the country. And so it has facilitated people getting in faster. There's less hassle. Um, so how these classes would help meet the need. So I find that people who come in with various backgrounds come in with a lot of creativity and diversity based on what they've studied and what they're interested in. So having that core is a scientific or technical background, you come in educable, able to learn what you're going to do. So let me go with chemist, because that's where I came from. Took classes in general chemistry and organic and inorganic and instrumental. And so I had the basic understanding of how chemicals worked, what they do, how instruments worked. I had hands to be able to use the instruments and mix things together. From there, with that basic educability and that aptitude and that sort of like baseline talent, I could be trained on, okay, this is how we do it here. Here's a much more advanced gas chromatograph that we have here. I'm going to teach you how to use it. You know how to use your hands. You know how to mix these things together. You know how to follow procedures and methods that we have developed to be able to analyze certain materials. But again, people have come from these diverse backgrounds, so they have learned new technologies and they're interested in different things, and they found stuff on their own, and maybe they worked in a cool lab or did a cool internship, and they brought that interesting experience with them, and they can say, hey, I know how to use your gas chromatograph, I know how to do mass spec, I learned this really cool technique, makes things goes a little bit faster and it's a little bit more efficient, why don't we try that out? And as we get new people in, that creativity and that diversity has only been a benefit to us, because the chemistry I learned 20 years ago and the instruments that were around 20 years ago, they've gotten better and they've learned new things. And I may not necessarily know that because I haven't been in college in that time. So bringing that with has been extremely valuable.
Excellent. So you did talk about educability, and so I do have to ask the question that everyone thinks about and no one wants to ask. But can you talk a little bit about the salary range of an intro employee to a more advanced position?
Sure. So we generally hire in fact, all of our employees are on the GS scale, and you can look this up at the Office of Personnel Management. So depending on the location, there are different locality pays for this. But often recent graduates, you're looking at coming in at the GS 7 or 9 level. And in our tracks, in general, these are full promotion level to a GS 12. So every year, as you meet your goals and as you successfully perform, you will move up on the GS level to a GS 12. And then that will begin, you will have incremental step increases. There are many career paths in LSS that can take you to the leadership route or technical routes in going into different areas that can bring you up to, say, if you want to be a lab director and you want to be in leadership one day, you want to run a laboratory, or if you want to focus on the technical aspect and you want to focus on, I want to become a very good, say, drug chemist, I want to be a very good palynologist, not supervisory, applying your trade and becoming an expert in that level, being able to move up to the GS 13, 14, even 15 level at those technical experts, depending on what you're interested in. And you can move between those around the country into different areas and sort of find what you would like to do. There's so much to be done right now. You're not necessarily pigeonholed in one job forever. So it will be introductory, but with the government, the salary range is commensurate with what OPM and the government is paying for that range right now. The benefits are, of course, wonderful. Working as a civil servant. I mean, this is civil service. This is not a for-profit company. This is serving your not just fellow American, but the world, because of what we do and how we support our fellow humans. So I have found that it has been very fulfilling for me on the civil service aspect, understanding the mission and how I meet that for my country.
Excellent. Yeah, my next question was about your personal mission and how your job is fulfilling your personal mission and purpose. So I think you already answered it. But I guess my last question is the last one. Do you have any good advice for finding your mission for a newly graduated student? If you had one piece of information that I could bring back, what would it be?
It's follow your curiosity.
Mhm.
There are so many interesting things out there that you may have been exposed to or may not. You know, people say sometimes, "Oh, follow your passion" or "find your passion" and things like that. But that makes it sound like you have to have one passion and that it's out there somewhere and that you need to find it. And I don't think that's been true for me. I always followed my curiosity. I was curious about one thing and I did that for a while. I tried to do that well. If you do good work and you're a good person and you're a good colleague, opportunities will find you. Not always when you want them to, but things will come along. And if you are curious about them, that tells you something that you might put energy into it. I wouldn't worry about a passion. In fact, maybe you don't want to. Not everyone can monetize their passion or make it into a job, but being curious and being interested in your job, try it out. See what you'd like to see. There's so much to be able to do out there. So I think that would be my recommendation. Follow your curiosity. Do good work and be a good person, and opportunities will find you. That then, if you're curious about, you might be able to follow.
And I think that's really great advice and really anxiety relieving because I think when you think about your career and how many years you have in your life, it's really hard to think about doing maybe one thing for the rest of your life. So the opportunities that you've presented and the way you can move around is really, really interesting. And so thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I guess me and the rest of these college kids. So thank you so much. And yeah, have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you very much.